Well, this is our second alumni speaker series, and of course, these events are being brought to you by the Office of Alumni and Development and Career Services. And we have a volunteer speaker every last Tuesday of the month at noon instead of the fourth Tuesday. It's the last Tuesday. And these speakers are part of our alumni network who will share a few experiences that they had here on the campus beautiful and tell us a little bit about their career choices. And we encourage you to listen closely and ask questions afterward during the Q&A segment. And as a reminder, these discussions are recorded and archived for future reference. And please excuse any issues ahead of time that might pop up with Zoom. Again, thank you for joining us, and I'll turn things over to Sarah Turner in our alumni office now.
Okay, well, we do thank you all for participating, and I just wanted to introduce our speaker for today. We are very excited to have Megan Parker here with us. Megan actually received her bachelor's degree from Concord in 2006 in Recreation and Tourism Management with an emphasis in planning and promotions. She also holds a master's degree in adult education with a concentration in college leadership and administration from North Carolina A&T State University. Megan currently lives in Greensboro, where she is the Graduate Student Professional Development Specialist in the Bryan School of Business and Economics at UNC Greensboro. She is passionate about using her industry experience to help students bridge the gap between higher education and the professional landscape. So we are very excited to have you. And with that, I will turn it over to Megan.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I was sharing a little bit earlier when we jumped on the call. I love to give presentations and I love to talk with students and also non-students too, so adults. Part of my role and what I do is I work with our graduate student population within the business school. And so those students really range at different points in their career. So I'm hoping that the information that I have today can be relevant not only for undergraduate students when they're thinking about how to engage in a virtual environment, but also to any industry professionals that are out there that are in their career and really trying to figure out how do we navigate the space that we're in now, where we're all living virtually in these little boxes, and talking to each other through Zoom. So I do have a PowerPoint just to really kind of help me stay on topic. A lot of the information that I do share or talk through and about comes from my industry experience. So I did spend 8.5 years in industry. 2 of those years were in talent acquisition when I was doing staffing and recruiting. And then I transitioned into the higher education space. So really leveraging my industry experience, but also the conversations that I have with our industry professionals. And especially right now, what does that look like? What are they looking for when they're talking to students or anyone who's wanting to make a career change in this environment? So we're going to talk a little bit about engaging in a virtual environment. And when I say engaging, to me, that really means networking. So, previously, post or pre-COVID, we were all getting together in large groups. We were shaking hands. We were having conversations. We were meeting people at networking events. Here we are in this COVID world, where we can't really get together with individuals in large group settings, but networking is still really, really important on a lot of different levels. So when we're saying engaging, I'm really thinking of it as networking. So networking is not collecting contacts. Networking is about planting relationships. So I think that's a really important way to think about networking and engaging with individuals. So you're just not going out and trying to get as many contacts as you can or LinkedIn invites. It's really making sure that once you are getting those contacts, once you have made contact with people, that you're really starting to build relationships with these individuals. I also love this other quote: networking is about helping others. So you're not really asking what they can do for you, but you're asking yourself what you can do for them. So it's not an exchange of, hey, can you give me a job? It's more of, this is who I am. This is my skill set. This is how I could be a benefit to your organization or your team. and you're really starting to talk about yourself, that also opens the door for them to talk about themselves, and you're really starting to build these relationships with individuals that can come back to help you later on during your career. So what is networking? It's really building and cultivating a foundation of solid relationships and contacts. It's much more than meeting people and trying to get a job. And it really is an essential tactic in the job search process. So I can count on a number of times that I have been looking for opportunities in my career, and really networking with people, that has aided me. Being able to meet someone that knows of a job opportunity that's opening somewhere else, that they can talk about me to the people that are doing the hiring. Those relationships have really helped me throughout my career. And I think it's important. And so now we're doing this virtually until we get on the other side of COVID-19, when it's in a safe place for us to be together. I really love these statistics because I think it really helps to paint a picture of what the world looks like. Why networking is important. So close to 80% of all jobs are never advertised, but they're uncovered through relationships. Again, that happened to me when I was looking for an opportunity to transition from the corporate America side into higher education. And I had a few contacts that were working in a university in Virginia, and they knew that I was looking. They knew that I would be a really good fit for this specific opportunity. And they actually talked to me about it before that position was even ever posted. And so for me, that was an opportunity to kind of get my foot in the door, or have someone that knew who I was and the skills that I brought to the table could go and talk to that individual. When I was transitioning into a talent acquisition role for staffing and recruiting, again, I had friends that worked for the organization. There was not a job post that was posted, but they knew that I was looking for whatever that next step was for myself, and sent them my resume, and I was able to have a job interview. So just for myself, those 80% of jobs that are never advertised, 2 of my jobs in my career have come from that. So I think that's a really important statistic to think through. And 70% of jobs are found through networking. So again, both of those are really examples that I have experienced. And I received this information from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. There's also another statistic that I think is really impactful and important when we're talking about networking and engaging, and this is specifically to online, but 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn to evaluate candidates. I used to be a recruiter. I would evaluate candidates using LinkedIn. Also, as a recruiter, I use LinkedIn to find candidates for job opportunities. And so it is a very powerful tool, and we'll talk a little bit about LinkedIn a little bit later, but it is a very powerful tool if you're using it for the right reasons, and if it is completed in its entirety. It can really work for you in a lot of different areas. And 2, just another little nugget about LinkedIn. Recruiters will make sure that your LinkedIn is the same as your resume. So they are going to be looking at your resume, looking at your LinkedIn. Is there anything that doesn't match? And they will bring that up in conversation and ask about that. I used to do that. I talked to some of our industry partners that I partner with. They do that as well. So again, that's really important. So where can you get started when you're thinking about maybe building a network? What that looks like. So everyone has a network right now. It's your family, it's your friends, it's your professors if you're a current student, it's your professors when you were a student, advisors. So Mrs. Manzo is here. So she is part of my network from my time at Concord. Neighbors, your community, people that you meet out in the community, and of course, other mountain lions. So it's really important to engage in your network, that the people that are there. One thing that I have found throughout my career is that it's really easy to build relationships with people, especially if you have something in common with them. So maybe you're doing a search on LinkedIn and you're interested in a specific industry, or maybe you're trying to pivot or transition your current career into a different space, whatever that looks like. And maybe you go in and you do a quick search in the LinkedIn bar and you look for people that went to Concord. You might not know these people. They may have graduated, before you or after you, whatever that looks like. But because you have that thing in common, because everyone went to Concord, that's a great way to open a conversation. That's a great way to say, hey, I noticed that you work at this company. I am interested in opportunities within that company. I would love to connect with you sometime and talk with you a little bit more about what your experience has been there. So it's really easy to kind of open that door when you're wanting to build your network with individuals. So I always say start there. It's a great way to expand. So networking, again, is establishing a mutually beneficial relationship of trust. I think the of trust part is really important. You're wanting to build these bonds and relationships with individuals. I think sometimes in this virtual space, it's kind of hard to do that. It's hard to come and build relationships with individuals when we're standing behind a computer screen, when we can't meet with people in person. But there's some ways to do that online. You're wanting to make sure that you're authentic. So be authentic. I always say be your authentic self, whoever that is, when you're coming into these spaces. Of course, be your professional self, but also be authentic. Be very intentional. So be intentional in the conversations that you have. Be intentional in the types of places that you're engaging. It's being that intentional. How can this help you in your career? What can you learn from these spaces that can really help you in your career? Be helpful. Again, that goes back to the, not what they can do for you, but what can you do for them? Be helpful, and also be responsive. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're being responsive when you're engaging with anyone in a virtual space. So whether that is in LinkedIn, whether you are sending emails to individuals that you're meeting, it's be responsive in your communication back to those individuals. So when we're creating this effective virtual network, it's really even more important to make sure that you have a professional presence online. This is something that I do consistently. Take time to Google yourself and see what is out there. So I do that probably like every so often, just because I'm interested in what is out in the world. And so when I Googled myself not too long ago, evidently there's an actress that was like on the Drake and Josh show. I don't know. Her name's Megan Parker. I was like, well, that's definitely not me. But then I did Megan Parker plus Greensboro, North Carolina. And so when I did that, the very first two things that populated when I did that was my LinkedIn profile and me on the website of UNCG. So when you're thinking about your professional presence, that is perfect for a professional presence. That's what you want to populate when things are coming up. If there's some things that come up that maybe don't reflect who you are professionally, make sure that you take care of those things. Address any of those search results that you can address. So I always say, thinking about your private social media. So I always break it down of you kind of have your private social spaces like Facebook or Instagram, whatever that looks like. And then you kind of have your professional spaces, which are very much like LinkedIn, that space. So if there's anything that's maybe coming through from your Facebook page that you feel like doesn't reflect your professional presence, make sure you lock it down. Or if there's anything else that populates that way, make sure you lock it down. As a former recruiter, I used to Google people. Right now, when I am coaching and working with our graduate students, I will Google them and, show them some different areas and really coach them through how to do these things. So I can't say it enough. It is very, very important that your professional presence, shows and is reflected. So if you don't Google yourself, Google yourself. Really effectively using LinkedIn. I know I brushed on this just a little bit earlier, but it's really important that your profile is complete and reflects your current status. So are you currently seeking a job? Are you, a student that has recently graduated? Are you an industry professional that is looking to maybe transition into some other spaces? But make sure that your profile is complete and reflects your current status. Now, I know some people also have questions about that, right? So are you actively looking for another job right now? That's a question that I get asked all the time. I don't really want to say seeking a new job opportunity on LinkedIn when my employer is also on LinkedIn and I'm connected with them. How do you navigate that space? So for me, and I'll show you on my LinkedIn in a minute, for me, I love my job. I like what I do, but to be quite honest, I'm always looking for another opportunity. That's just the way it is. How can I progress in my career? What opportunities are out there? It's just important to make sure that you know those things. So I'll show you my LinkedIn and kind of how I navigate that space with my current status or tagline at the top. Making sure that you have a professional picture that is there. Do you want a custom descriptive tagline or a personal URL? Some people do that and they add it to their resume. It helps the recruiter. They don't have to search for you. They can just put in the tagline or the personal URL and it pops you up. Are you a member of any relevant groups? So when we're talking about relevant groups, it's like Concord. It's Concord Alumni. It's, are there any relevant types of organizations that are within your field of study? So for me, because I work in this career and professional development space, I'm a part of groups that really focus in on colleges, universities, and employers. Are there employers that I'm members of their groups because I want to know what's going on within that space? Being a part of those relevant groups, I have found very beneficial, not only to myself, but also for the information that I find that I can then share with the students that I work with. So for instance, there's Lincoln Financial Group. They're an organization that is here in Greensboro downtown. I follow their organization. I'm connected with their recruiter. And this summer, actually spring into summer, when we all kind of had to transition very quickly into this virtual world, one thing that their organization did very early on was start to have sessions that individuals, whether you are college students or whether you are industry professionals and maybe you are interested in working for Lincoln Financial, they would start publishing these sessions that you could sign up for to sit with a recruiter, to talk with a recruiter. And so I found that information because I'm connected with Lincoln Financial. I'm connected with their recruiter. And that's very valuable and great information for students or for industry professionals, however you are in the job transition or where you want to be, because this is an opportunity to sit one-on-one with a recruiter that works for an organization and ask them questions. And so not only can you learn about what is happening in the industry and the space that you're working in, but you can also find information like that. And one thing that I'm seeing within this space, so if anyone's interested or looking for that next job opportunity, whatever that is, one thing that we're finding within this space right now is that employers, we're very used to plugging in to colleges through a career and professional development or career services office, and they're still doing that. But what they're also doing is holding these virtual networking engaging sessions where students are directed to go and sign up for those sessions on their specific website. That way they're able to talk to a lot of different students from a lot of different schools or people that are looking and are interested in their organization. And so by being plugged in a virtual space like LinkedIn, you're able to get some of that information to really be able to network and to have conversations with recruiters. So super important. I kind of get on my soapbox about that one because that's a way that you can utilize LinkedIn in just a number of ways. Following influencers. So it's important to follow influencers on LinkedIn. It not only helps you kind of understand where those people are coming from, but also more about the industry and organization that you're in. So when I say influencers, I don't mean like, you know, your neighbor down the street. I'm talking about like the Brene Browns of the world. So if you're really interested in leadership and vulnerability, I would consider Brene Brown an influencer within that space. She does research within that space, and she's very knowledgeable within that space. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, Mark Cuban, that one would be another good one to follow. So when we're talking about influencers, it's those types of people, the Bill Gates of the world, the Apples of the world, the Googles of the world, those types of people. Jamie Kasub is another really great one to follow. So he used to work at Google, no longer, but he's very much an educational evangelist. So working within that education space at a K through 12 level. So those are the influencers that we're really talking about there. Making sure that you're actively commenting on posts and creating content. So like I said, that's not something I'm very good at. I need to do better at creating content, but also, you know, making a point to celebrate those people that are on LinkedIn, that are celebrating their accomplishments, that are posting articles that, you know, you could find useful. So engaging and commenting, that also helps to build your professional presence and your professional brand. When you're sending connect messages or in-mail messages, making sure that you're doing it with customizing it, detailed, or if you're able to offer any help. So I, of course, spend a lot of time in these little boxes. And so for me, if I'm on any type of meeting where there are people that I want to connect with, I will send them just a quick message letting them know, hey, we were both on the NC SHRM session today, and I just wanted to connect with you. That way you're giving the person some context onto where they met you or where they could have, you know, seen you. And especially now that we're in these boxes, it's kind of hard to see who everyone is all the time. And so that is one way that I've started to build my network when I'm sitting on different webinars or Zoom sessions. If there's someone that is delivering content that I want to connect with, I do it that way and say, you know, it was great to hear you today on this webinar. I really enjoyed the content that you delivered. For me, I always find it really frustrating if people connect with me and I don't know how I know them. So if someone can give me some context onto how that is, I find that very helpful. There is a world beyond LinkedIn. So looking at professional and community organizations, I'm a member of a community organization called the Future Fund of Greensboro. We do a lot of great work with nonprofits in the Triad area and the Greensboro area. But for me, I've been really able to plug into that community and to meet friends, but also to build my network, as there are people that are working in different industries and organizations that are a part of that organization as well. Are there any user groups or trade groups that are really relevant within your industry or that you're interested in being a part of? And so really getting plugged into those. So for me, NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. That's a huge user group that I've been plugged into this for a while, but especially now since COVID has hit. There's been a lot of really great workshops and webinars that they've hosted that have all been virtual, that I've been able to interact and engage with individuals that do the same type of work that I do, but they might live in New York City, or they might live in Florida. There is one person that worked at High Point University, just 20 minutes down the road, that I'd never met before, but because we were in this workshop and webinar together, we were able to connect. So being able to connect with those individuals, going and connecting with them on LinkedIn is really important. Are there any other digital platforms that you want to kind of get plugged into? And here are some of those as well. The big thing I say is get comfortable with the uncomfortable and challenge yourself. So it's not always easy putting yourself into these situations, to having conversation with people that you've never met before. But that's how you meet people. That's how you grow within the spaces that you're in. I always like to say, for me, I am very much an introvert. So being in front of people or in large groups don't get me energized. It kind of drains me. But I can turn it on when I need to turn it on, and be an extrovert. So for me, I know that about myself, and I have to challenge myself when I'm in these spaces to go and to network with people, or to reach out to people and to connect with people. So I always say, challenge yourself. By having these conversations, you really grow with your knowledge of the industries or spaces that you want to work in or be in. But you can also meet some really phenomenal people that can help you along your path. And then I did show my LinkedIn, if it will let me get there. To just talk about when we were talking about doing the customizable tagline, or when I made the comment about, you don't want your employer to know that you're looking. And so for me, I'm always looking for opportunities. I'm looking to grow within my career and to grow within my space and to continue to be challenged. And so instead of saying, hey, look at me, which you can do that. There is a function that your picture kind of turns green around it, and it lets recruiters know that you're actively looking for employment. But if you want to be kind of sly about it and not let your supervisors know or other individuals know that you're looking, so for me, I kind of created this little tagline about myself. So I'm a higher education career services professional, that I'm interested in the areas of training and development, recruiting, human resources, and higher education. So all of those areas are also areas that I've had professional experience in, they are skills that I have. So also, if you're networking with people, or if I apply to a job and someone comes to look at my LinkedIn, right there, they know who I am in a nutshell. They have a little snapshot of what my career has been, what I have done, and the skills and abilities that I have that can add to their organization. And so that's a really good way to highlight those things, instead of saying like, hey, I'm looking for a job, because you don't want to be called out at work about that. So that's that little section there. So, and that's really all the content that I had for today. Any questions?
Megan, I apologize for the interruption, but
it's okay.
Do you happen to have any secret tips that we could use for like LinkedIn or maybe Indeed, any of the other things that people use for posting jobs and looking for jobs? So
I always say, use all the tools in your toolbox. And so not solely relying on one source. Now, LinkedIn is phenomenal, because if you have created your LinkedIn profile in its entirety, LinkedIn will send you jobs that are based upon your skills that you've put within it. Now, not every job that is sent to you through LinkedIn is going to be relevant or one that you want, but it really does align. So when I was interviewing, applying for the job that I currently have now, I had applied for the job through the UNCG website, and I'd already had the interview set up. I hadn't had the interview yet, but I remember getting an email and it was like, LinkedIn has sourced these jobs that would be a good fit for you. Well, the first one on it was the job I was interviewing for, which is the job I have now. So there are some really relevant jobs that come through, but you have to filter through it. But I think that's a really great way of having a tool work for you. So not having to go and to search every single day, but you have this tool that you have taken time to develop and create, and now it's sending you emails with relevant opportunities. And so that's one tool to use. Making sure that you are using the Indeeds of the world, that you are, for students and even alum, I know on our campus we use the platform called Handshake. So it's the career management platform. I don't know what you all use on your campus, but we use Handshake. And alum are also able to plug into Handshake. And so that's another way that, again, not all of those opportunities are going to be relevant because the employer has to log into the portal and post the job. So it's not an all-encompassing site, but one thing that I tell my graduate students, because again, they're at different points in their career. Some of them have been working, have no professional experience, but the majority of them have been working anywhere from 5 to 15 years. And so they're like, some of these jobs that I'm seeing are more targeted to an undergrad population. Well, the way to use it is say, I know this company. I have identified this company as searching for talent. They might not have a job that's been posted in this portal that is really relevant for me and my skills, but I know that they're looking for top talent, and now I can go to their website and search for their website and see what are all of the open job opportunities that they have there. Also, making sure that you have a list. So is there a list of companies that you know that you're interested in working for? So that list can be like 5 to 10, whatever that is. And it can be a list that's really relevant to you and who you are. So what's important to you in a working environment? Everyone is different when you're thinking about that, but you have kind of vetted these opportunities or these, different companies. You might know someone that works there, or maybe, your mom works there, or your aunt works there, whatever that is, but from having those conversations that this is a place that could be a good fit for me. So having a list of organizations and going to those sites on a consistent manner and basis. And so I also say, make sure that you're dedicating and allocating time to a job search. It's not a one and done type of thing. You have to be consistent in looking. It is a numbers game. You have to apply to a lot of jobs. A couple years ago, when my position at another university was actually no longer going to be funded, I had to find an opportunity. I knew I wanted to stay in higher education. And so for me, the first week, I applied to 40 some jobs. When it was all said and done, I had applied to over 100. But once I started getting interviews, you just start getting interviews and you just start going with it. And eventually something will happen. So it's a numbers game, and especially right now in this COVID world that we're in, companies are hiring. Companies are looking for interns, but the market is a very different market than it was back in January. Individuals are being furloughed and laid off. Here, Volvo, their North American headquarters is in Greensboro. This summer, they furloughed almost 400 people. And so the market is very saturated with talent right now that is actively looking for opportunities. So it is a little bit harder, but you have to stay persistent and you have to allocate time, a couple hours, multiple times a week, and just apply, and use all of the tools in your toolbox.
Okay. Do you have any tips on how to challenge yourself when maybe you are an introvert, or you're just trying to, you may be going through a hard time trying to find a position or something like that, that might be able to help folks figure out a way to motivate themselves?
Sure. I know for me, it's just really getting out there and doing it. I do think that there's a little bit of comfort in these little boxes that we're in right now, because you're able to be in your home, or you're able to, kind of log on. It's not the whole being in person all of the time. Or, if you're more of someone who wants to sit back and kind of listen, you're able to do that in these spaces maybe a little bit more comfortably than you could in an in-person space. But I say just do it. Just log on to these different sessions, engage with people, do follow-ups. I know sometimes for myself, if I'm getting ready to go into a networking type of event, I need a little time beforehand to kind of mentally prepare for what's to come. So maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, being just kind of silent or preparing for what I'm going to talk about. I was talking to some of our early career MBA students a couple weeks ago, and, I told them, I was like, could you all tell if I'm tired right now? And they're like, no. And I was like, because I turned it on. Because we're meeting today at 10 a.m. and I knew I was kind of tired and maybe I wasn't in the best mood this week, that I needed time to prepare myself. I just needed that extra time. And so I didn't log on to my computer until 9:30 this morning, because I needed that extra time to get prepared to come into this space and for us to facilitate this conversation. So I think those are some tips for me. Like, you just know yourself and you know how you work best. And also just getting out there and doing it. So once you've kind of engaged in a virtual space, maybe you've had a quick conversation or whatever that looks like, you have connected with someone on LinkedIn after it's over, you start to build a little bit of confidence in yourself and know that you can do it. And I think that helps really give the momentum moving forward.
Okay, good tips. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts?
To do with what she's done here. What's my best way of getting in touch with you? What's the best contact to use?
Oh, for me?
Mm-hmm.
You can email me at mkparker@gmail.com. Oh, mkparker83, @gmail.com. What? My university one is MK Parker. I always forget the 83 in my personal. mkparker83@gmail.com.
Got it. Thank you. Oh, we're going to lose our electricity again.
Oh, no. Is that what happened?
Yeah, we had a slash thing or whatever.
Any other questions?
No, great to see you.
It was good to see you, too.
Thank you so much, Megan. That was great.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It was fun. Any other ways that I can get plugged in or involved or talk to students, just let me know.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate your discussion. You had a lot of really good tips, especially with LinkedIn.
Well, thank you. I've delivered this content a little bit over the summer and now.
You're really good at it.
It's been a topic of conversation in many different spaces with our students.
Well, one thing I learned about you today is that you're an introvert. Amanda, Tanya, do you agree?
I am, though.
One around me.
But I turn it on, and if I know people, like, it helps if I know people. If I've had a relationship with someone, but going into these kind of networking spaces, I'm very much an introvert. I kind of sit back. It drains me. When I leave like a dinner or a networking type of engagement, like, I don't want to talk to anybody for the rest of the night, or maybe in the morning. Like, you know, it drains me to be around people. But
I think I know a whole different Megan Parker than everybody else.
well,
That was several years ago.
This is true.
it's in a different environment as well. Okay, it's not in the.
We only live 20 minutes away from each other. We see each other quite a bit. Oh, it's a Raggedy!
It's in the Raggedy. She has to make an appearance. Well, any other questions? No. All right.
Well, thanks to everybody for joining us today and your participation. Now, next month's Alumni Series, we're going to have Mercer County Circuit Judge Omar Abelhosen from the class of 92 and Thad Bowyer from our 2011 graduating class. I think there's going to be another attorney available, and they're going to conduct a law panel and talk a little bit about what to expect when applying for law school and what you might experience during law school. And that meeting will be held on October the 27th. So any of our participants and our fine speaker today, if they want to join, please feel free to, and we'll get the link to you. And thank you, and have a great afternoon to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.